Now, before you talked about when Rick Ross had this happened years ago when he came out with the song B.M.F. Then he mentioned your father, Larry Hoover. In a way, you said you didn't like the fact that he said Larry Hoover whipping work. Talk to my audience about that and how your dad didn't really mind because his name was still being put in the light, but you didn't like the fact that he referenced his name with Larry Hoover whipping work. Can you speak to that?
Okay,
Hip
well,
Hop Uncensored is the vibe, so subscribe. Hip Hop Uncensored is the vibe, so subscribe. On God driving, Sam and riding passenger side. And you heard it out the mouth of the greatest rapper alive. Go gang.
Winter is here. Make sure you go cozy up and get yourself a new Hip Hop Uncensored hoodie. You can go to the top line of the description box and go get yours right now. Tell them, oh God sent you. All right, also, man, you already know what it means. You're rocking with the best. Make sure you guys click the like button. Make sure you leave a comment below. But most importantly, make sure you guys subscribe to Hip Hop News Uncensored for more exclusive just like this.
Okay. And did you orchestrate the Drake and the Kanye and Dre Prince thing? You put that together?
well, that was my father's. That was his baby, his idea.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I helped play a part. Jay Prince played a part, but I didn't orchestrate it like that. You know, Kanye is from the city, and he has ties to the cities. So he genuinely in his heart already, knew what was needed. So Kanye came on because he wanted to help and he wanted to reach out. And then Drake is a good dude and he could see the beauty in it. So we just trying to put it together. They had their issues, but like I said, we trying to show who they are, show what type of real stand-up dudes they can be.
Right. Now, before you talked about when Rick Ross this happened years ago when he came out with the song B.M.F. Then he mentioned your father, Larry Hoover. In a way, you said you didn't like the fact that he said Larry Hoover whipping work. Talk to my audience about that and how your dad didn't really mind because his name was still being put in the light, but you didn't like the fact that he referenced his name with Larry Hoover whipping work. Can you speak to that?
Okay, well, the only reason I had a issue with that is because my father is still fighting for his life, and that portrays him as a drug dealer. But other than that, like I said, he put Larry Hoover in everybody's mouth and in everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. If it got quiet about Larry Hoover, everybody was thinking Larry Hoover or trying to figure out who he was. So, I mean, we can't do anything but honor that. But at the same time, I don't think he knew that he was doing something that might have been offensive. But it was, I had felt kind of like it was. But, I mean, it's all right. We're way past that, We kind of talked about that, and everything's okay on that situation.
Cool.
Good.
Oh, and plus, on the side of that, like my father actually heard about when guys were after Rick Ross, and he was, he's like, we don't behave like that,
Right.
He couldn't believe it. Right. It was bamboozled in real life, but it wasn't a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Man. Your father, I heard in one of the old interviews, he was quoted in saying that he knows he's going to spend the rest of his life in jail and he's okay with that. He's at peace with that, but just understanding and knowing that you guys were okay, his family was okay is his only concern. That was some years ago. We fast forward now and you guys are still heavily in a pursuit of getting your father free, as you guys should. He paid his debt to society. He committed a crime 40, 50 some odd years ago, and he's paid his debt. According to the law, he deserves to get out. Talk about his mindset right now. You guys are strongly fighting out here for him to get his freedom. Is he still at peace with where he's at, or is he in a different space where he, in fact, wants to get out as well?
You know what? He's fighting like he always says, never stop swinging. Right. But I know he understands that it's a possibility that they would never agree. So I think that might be part of the mindset that he has to have to deal with what he deals with, because anybody else in this situation probably would have broke down and went crazy. Like, that's how that place is. So, I mean, he sees opportunity and he's he's fighting and pulling for it. So he's not saying that I'm okay, I'm not fighting anymore. He's definitely fighting. Like, he controls what goes on with the fight in his life. Like, he can't talk to everybody else, but he can talk to us and let us know if he agrees with what we're doing, trying to fight for his life.
Yeah.
It's a two-part question real quick. On Kanye's album, and how serious was the talks about last year, I think, with the Donald Trump possibly, granting him clemency? How serious did that get?
Well, I mean, it was a serious situation. It was very serious. Mm-hmm. It didn't go as far as we wanted it to go. I mean, he talked to Donald Trump, and he brought the idea to him, and we were in talks back and forth, but it just didn't materialize into anything. Like, it wasn't just him on the news in that little conference blurting it out, free Larry Hoover. Like, it was a real thing that he was trying to get done. It just didn't materialize into what we wanted it to materialize in, or we wouldn't be here right now talking about this. The interview would be maybe me and my father, or my father on this interview and me sitting on the side. But yeah, it was definitely a serious thing. Just didn't happen at that point. Maybe it wasn't the time. I think the time is now.
Right. As far as Kanye, how'd you end up on that album? What was the impact of you that album going out and you being on that song?
Well, I really don't know how I ended up on the album. I came to see Kanye, and when I came to visit him, he was getting ready to do the listening party. So I seen him that day, and then he called me, and he asked for me to be on the album. So when he told me that, I'm like, what am I gonna put on there? So we talked about it a little bit, and I put some things together and wrote it out, and I gave it to him the day of the listening party. And like I said, that evening while we were at the listening event, I heard it come over the loudspeaker. I didn't even know if it was actually going to make it on there. But, I mean, he used it. And from there, like, the world is being informed again that we still fighting for my father.
Right. Did your father have any connection with Big Meech at all?
Nah.
No. Okay.
Nah, he doesn't know Big Meech.
Okay.
He probably, well, you know what? With him being where he was at, he might have met some people, or talked through the cells, some people that came from his crew or something like that. But yeah, he didn't know Big Meech. He had been in Colorado while he was in the box while Big Meech was doing his thing. So it's a good chance he didn't know anything about Big Meech.
Given the history and the legend of your father, obviously throughout time, people look him up, they're going to see one thing, and he'll probably be known throughout time as that. How does your father want to be perceived now as he sits here at this age?
My father wants to be perceived, and I can't say 100%, but I know he wants to be perceived as what he was doing. He was making a change in his community. He wants to be perceived as a leader of his community, not as a leader of gangster disciples, but a guy that seen what was going on and seen what was going wrong and used his influence to change and go in a different direction. They just don't want to let him have that legacy. They like the legacy of gangster disciple, similar to Al Capone, but you can't praise him like Al Capone. If you do him like Al Capone, then it's a cross on him ever having a chance to come home. Like, they praise Al Capone, but if they talk about Larry Hoover for what he did, then that means he should die in jail. But Al Capone he's on mugs and buildings and everything all across the city. But his legacy shouldn't be that anyway. His legacy should be the changes that he was starting to make in his community. The fact that he was making young guys, you had to go to school if you was a part of this organization. You had to get ready to make the changes. We were coming together. There's power in numbers, and he understood that, and they know that he understood that, and that's what the problem was with him. He wanted to be known for the guy that brought his people together and started making changes.